Hi, in this episode I have a lot to share with you because I'm going to set you up for your personal book hunting trip to the south of France. I provide you with information about 7 English bookstores in this beautiful area, and you will meet many nice people in this episode. So you know who you could contact if you plan to visit their bookstores. And if you do, you might receive a little gift from them. Also, in this episode, many of them will share with you their best book recommendations. And as a bonus, I want to show you a remarkable bookstore, or better, a real book heaven somewhere in France and in the middle of nowhere. So, let's dive into it. Welcome back to Bold Books and Bones. To me, the south of France has it all. It has fantastic food, a comfortable, warm climate, friendly people, great wines, and France has, of course, a great book culture. Now, if you are like me and you read and speak better English than French, then next to enjoying the many fantastic French bookstores, you also might like to visit English bookstores in this beautiful part of Europe. And therefore, we start our journey in Bordeaux, the famous city in one of the great wine regions of France. Now, if you visit Bordeaux, then look for a beautiful little place called Bradley's Bookshop. It is an English bookshop that exists since 1983. The place is nice and cozy, and they serve coffee, tea, and some fine cookies and cakes. The atmosphere in the shop was just great. It felt to me a bit like if I was part of a bookshop sitcom. There is Kevin, the bookstore owner. He might give you free of charge insights on all kinds of topics, from politics to history to taxes. Whatever the subject, Kevin has an insightful thought about it. And here he is also explaining to Marion which knife is best for cutting cake. I enjoyed very much talking with Kevin. Then there is Matthew, a young and friendly Canadian man who lives in France and who loves visiting bookstores everywhere he goes in the world. And last but not least, there is Marion, another friendly member of the crew with a passion for books. This store had the right kind of vibes for me, friendly and helpful to their customers, professional when they are interacting with them, a great combination of books and café, and there was always this friendly and humorous undertone. I had a great time. Thanks Kevin, Marion and Matthew for having me. I purchased this little book at Bradley's Bookshop. It's called Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops. It is a hilarious read. If you consider to visit Bradley's Bookshop in Bordeaux, then the first 10 people who mention this episode of Bold Books and Bones will receive a free drink of choice, courtesy of Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, for creating such a great place. So, don't forget to pass by and support the local English bookstore in Bordeaux. The next English bookstore with a positive and comfortable but very different vibe as the previous one is called the Bookshop, and you can find it in Toulouse. I very much recommend this store. It is another great place. And I met Jeremy and Anne, 2 kind people who are, in my opinion, a bit like book wizards, with tons of knowledge about the books they sell. I enjoyed so much talking with them. There is a relaxed atmosphere in the store with no pressure to buy books. Now, Anne and Jeremy like to talk with their customers and advise them or help them to find the book that they really need. So don't hesitate to start a chat with them. It is also an independent bookstore, and that means that they not only have the bestsellers, but they also have the books that they really love. Jeremy's recommendation is the book called Half of the Yellow Sun by Shimananda, a Nigerian author, who tells the story of the Nigerian Biafran civil war and how it impacted the life of two sisters. The author was born 7 years after the end of the war, and while growing up, she experienced that the past was always present in her family, what made her decide to write this novel. And many of the characters are based on real people. And Anne recommended 2 books. One is called A Little Life by the author Hanya Yana-Giara, which is a story about friendship between 4 men who live in New York. I learned from her that the novel tells the story of how the relationship between these men evolved under the influence of success, wealth, addiction, and other topics. And I also learned that it is a quite intense story. The second book is called Betty and was written by Tiffany McDaniel. It is about a little child, a girl, with a Cherokee Native American father and a white American mother. I learned from Anne that it is a dark yet beautiful story. It talks about racism, poverty, and mental health issues. It is about the special and strong bond between a father and his daughter. And it talks about the liberating power that words and stories can have. Thank you, Anne, for recommending these books. If you would go to the Bookshop in Toulouse, then you might like to join the gathering of the monthly book club. Sometimes up to 20 people participate in discussing books that touch them or that even change their lives. I think it is fair to say that it is an English international bookstore with the feel of your local neighborhood bookstore, because it is fully embedded in the local community. I bought this fine edition at the Bookshop called Arabian Nights, another recommendation by Jeremy. It is a book about the famous Tales from 1001 Nights. This is where our stories of Aladdin, Sinbad, and Ali Baba and many others actually come from. Now, if you would go to this nice and cozy place and you are one of the 10 first people who mention the Bold Books and Bones channel, then you will get a little present. Thanks Jeremy, Anne and Patricia for running such a nice place. And thank you, Jeremy, for the emails with more book recommendations that you sent me. Your knowledge about books is just amazing. While you travel from one bookstore to another and you are not in a hurry, I recommend to not always take the highways. If you set your navigation system to take alternative routes, then you can discover the beautiful landscapes of the south of France. It felt as pure quality time when my wife and I were driving through these beautiful sceneries. Now, up to the next bookstore. About 3 years ago, I drove with 2 great friends to Montpellier. And there we met Manon and Salomé, who run the English bookstore called Le Bookshop. It is such a positive duo that I decided to make a full episode only about them and their store. If you want to check out their episode on my channel, you can find the link in the comment section. I was looking forward to meet them again this time because I wanted to know how they were doing. It is good to learn that their store has survived the pandemic very well and that they are now quite active on TikTok and on Instagram. Why I like this bookstore particularly is because it is a place where everyone is welcome. Just come as you are. Manon and Salome are wonderful in the way they advise their customers about books, and also the place is special. If you enter, you can go downstairs and you enter a kind of dungeon with books in it. They have a nice cafe outside with all kind of drinks, and the store is located in this beautiful street in the heart of Montpellier. Now, at Le Bookshop, I had the pleasure to meet the cartoonist Johnny Ba. Yes, that is the guy who is photobombing our group picture. I like his personal style of storytelling and his unique and original way of drawing. We talked a bit about his latest story that he is working on, and he was so kind to give me some insights in the way he creates the characters and the fantasy worlds that they live in. His creative mind is full of original thoughts and ideas. You can check him out on Instagram, and I leave a link to his website in the comment section. Now, I asked Salome which book she would recommend to us, the Bold Books and Bones community, and she showed me this book called 30 Things I Love About Myself, written by Radhika Sangani. It is about a woman that has to spend a night in prison on her 30th birthday, and she realized that she reached rock bottom in terms of self-respect. She also realized that she had to take better care of herself, and therefore she decided to find 30 reasons to love herself again. It is a great topic, and I think it is relevant for these times where some of us might struggle to see the difference between life as shown on social media and the real life of people. Both can be beautiful, but they are often not the same, of course. And living for the judgment of others never leads to something good. So, thank you, Salome, for your advice. It is the first time that I read this kind of book, and I learned several new things, so thanks a lot. I also asked Johnny Ba which book he would recommend, and he showed me this intriguing story. It is a graphic novel made by Zoe Thorogood about a young artist who learns that she will become blind soon. However, there are 10 paintings that she still wants to make. The only thing I can say about this book is, wow, this is a nice story. Although there is the dramatic event of the impending blindness and there is the hardship of life, but there is a lot of kindness and beauty in the characters that appear in this story. I very much like her ability to create these different, realistic and believable characters, and I enjoyed the way in which she lets the story evolve. So, thank you, Juniba, for this recommendation. I very much enjoyed this debut book by Zoe Thorogood. Thank you, Manon and Salome, for welcoming us. My wife and I had a nice time at Le Bookshop, and see you hopefully again soon. Manon is so kind to offer you a free drink if you are among the first 10 people who mention the Bold Books and Bones channel when you are at Le Bookshop. Now, this channel is all about books and also about supporting your local bookstores. And therefore, I joined bookshop.org as an affiliate partner. Bookshop.org sells books online and gives a large part of its profit to local bookstores. And this unique business model is made to strengthen the local independent bookstores, to ensure that we can continue to have access to a diversity of books and to ensure that independent bookstores can play their important role in our communities. If you would consider buying any of the books that are mentioned in this episode or that are mentioned in any of my other episodes, then go check out the link in the comment section underneath. That link will bring you to the Bold Books and Bones place on bookshop.org and see if they ship to your country too. Or just go to your local independent bookshop and purchase books directly from them. A couple of months ago, I was at a flea market in Belgium and I purchased this Manuel de Voyageur. a travel guide about the southeast of France. It is a 1894 edition, and I paid only €5 for it. It was fun to have it with us during the trip and to read what people recommended to visit 128 years ago. I'm looking at our next book hunting destination on this old map, and we are heading to Avignon, which is a city with a long and fascinating history. In Avignon, I met a nice lady called Riham, who is the owner of the English bookstore called Camili Books and Tea. It is in the Rue Carreterie. The street still has the same name as in 1894. The store is now located where the Blue Cross and Circle is, and it is close to the beautiful old city wall that surrounds Avignon. The bookstore has an interesting backstory. It was started by Wolfgang Zuckermann, a Jewish man from New York with German roots. You can find his full history on Wikipedia. A quite remarkable and unusual man. It was later in his life that he owned the bookstore. Back then it was called Shakespeare, and it became a place where artists meet and cultural events take place. The store lives in an 18th century building and is located on the inside of the historical city wall of Avignon. It has a tea and coffee corner and a nice little terrace that provides the necessary shade during the hot summer days. And Riham explains that the place has its own soul, which I definitely believe after I visited this unique location. The store offers a fine combination of used and new books, and Riham's personal preferences shine through in what she has to offer. And this is another reason why I love to go to independent bookstores, because you never really know what you're gonna get. For me, this is part of the experience. I love to be surprised by books that I never heard about before. While talking with Riham about books about the famous yearly theatre festival in Avignon, she told me about a book that was first published in 1940 and that she likes a lot. It is called The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, and it was written by Carson McCullers. It is a story about a deaf-mute man whose name is John Singer and who lives somewhere in the south of the United States. The story is about many different people, and the one thing that they have in common is that they are lonely in some way. Without spoiling the story, Mr. Singer does his best to be helpful to many of the people he encounters. It is a heavy story, and it takes place in the time of the Jim Crow segregation laws. However, I learned from Riham that the book is beautifully written, and it does not only tell a deep human story, but it also reflects a part of the history of the southern states of the United States. So thank you, Riham, for making me aware of this book. While exploring the bookshelves of Camili Books and Tea, I found this beautiful 1986 edition of Revolt in the Desert by T.E. Lawrence, published by the Folio Society. And I also bought the 1997 edition of the book called At the Court of the Borgia, a book that I need for another episode of Bold Books and Bones. So if you go to Avignon and you love books, then you don't want to miss this place. And there is important news. Although the store is still open for business, it is also for sale. So if you play with the idea to run an English bookstore in the beautiful south of France, then this might be your chance. As mentioned, it is a store with a fine history and with a soul of its own. I leave the context of Riham in the comment section underneath this episode. I hope you liked this episode so far. We have 3 more bookstores to go and 1 bonus bookstore. So looking forward to continue the book hunt with you in part 2 of this episode. See you there.